welcome to Green Rapids.
What's up? And I'm really excited to have a conversation about this. I love what we've found when we researched it a little bit. So today, what are we talking about?
We're talking about climate cafes.
Woo! And what is a climate cafe, Nancy?
Okay, so a climate cafe is generally a space for people that have open conversations about the climate crisis and how it affects them emotionally, mentally, and, just as far as like their impact on their personal well-being. We actually have one here in Grand Rapids.
No way.
Well, we did mention it in one of our last episodes. We did give them a shout out. And by them, I mean us, because I'm part of it.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard about it, go back and listen to every single one of our episodes until you find the one where we're talking about climate cafes.
It might have been the last one, though, right?
It might have been the first one, too.
It might have been the first one, too. We don't know.
But, yeah, so there is a climate cafe in Grand Rapids. Tell me more about it.
Sure. So the Climate Cafe here was actually started by Nate Ralbiri.
So Nate started this.
Mm-hmm.
And
invited me to co-facilitate with him, so now we both kind of do it together, which is really great. Nate found out about these, I think online. He mentioned that he had heard of, like, our Climate Cafe is just like one of hundreds, if not thousands, of climate cafes globally.
This is not the only climate cafe that exists. It's not the first one, won't be the last one.
Yeah, we definitely didn't invent it, but it is definitely like a really good tool to have for talking about it. So according to the Climate Psychology Alliance...
Nancy with the facts.
I got you with the facts. There's, as you can imagine, because of all these impacts of climate change and the fact that they can have a really wide net as to the aspects of your life that they can affect, right? So I think in our last episode, we talked about like the word is solastalgia, where you miss the way a place was, like the way you knew it.
Okay.
As an example, when I was little and I would go to church camps, there was this place in California called Cachuma Lake, and it was like this just like deserty lake campground type of thing. Okay. It was beautiful. It was great. But I went there for years, and like every year that I went back, the lake was smaller, smaller, and smaller. So like a lot of the places, like each year I went back, it was a little bit sadder.
Yeah, of course.
Because I was like, this lake is disappearing before my very eyes.
Oh.
So that's kind of what that feeling describes, right? Or maybe you go back and try to visit somewhere from your childhood and you find out that there's like a brand new mall on top of it.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But then there's also a bunch of other things like natural disasters and the way that affects people. And then sometimes even just like the threat of a natural disaster is enough to really have like that state of like kind of fight or flight. And like,
of course, if you live in an area that has experienced a wildfire or a hurricane, tsunami, tornadoes, just flooding, anything along those lines, you probably naturally just carry that weight, right? Like, when could it happen? Yeah. The possibility is there. And so totally. And so I feel like, climate cafes have existed within that space for a really long time. I'm sure ever since there has been concerns about the environment, there have been groups like this. Maybe they just had a different name.
Yeah. Or maybe even just like informal before it became like a full-on thing,
Yeah. And I was kind of acting like I didn't know what they were at the beginning, but I've been to these and they're super cool. It's really cool. Actually, something I enjoy a lot about the Climate Cafe in Grand Rapids in particular is that there's so many people that I didn't know that go to it, right? These are not just people who are in community, although there is often at least 2 or 3 people there who are, doing work in this or lots of advocacy around this. Sometimes it's just people who live in the neighborhood who care about it. People who like, I think one time we were there and a woman showed up and she was maybe like in her 50s. Yeah. And she just was like, oh, I saw this at a coffee shop, and I was like, oh, or she was out shopping or something, and she saw the poster for it, and she was just like, I've heard of these, and I want to show up because she has concerns. Her kids worked in environment, stuff like that.
Yeah, she was really cute.
Yeah, so
I think one thing that I really liked about Climate Cafe too is that especially because it is a space in which we're kind of more so thinking about like our reflections, our thoughts and our feelings, our experiences more than what we're doing. Like it's definitely less of an action space and more of a thinking, reflecting, like healing space, really.
Yes.
Which is really great. And I feel like the reason why that's so important right now is because I feel like there's like kind of this like general feel like I don't know what the word is right now. Like, but we could like as
climate
humans.
anxiety.
Well, I was thinking more so just like the fact that sometimes humans we categorize ourselves as being separate from nature.
Oh my God, we were just having this conversation at WeMeAC today. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like very interested in hearing what more people have to say about this.
Yeah, but and I remember I hadn't even realized how much that was so until I was reading Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass, and she talked about her students about some of their thoughts and feelings about humans and nature, and she's like, oh, like, how do you feel about nature? And like a lot of students were like, oh, like it gives us this, it gives us that, and then she's like, oh, do you think? Or like I think she asked like, what's the nature of your relationship with nature as like a human being? And a lot of them were like, oh, like I'm a taker and nature is a giver.
Right.
And then she was like, well, like, can you think of a place in which a human could be a giver to nature and nature is a taker? And like people were kind of drawing blanks. And I think that's because we're so used to seeing nature and natural resources again as resources and not as just a thing that we're also a part of, you know, like this web of life.
We're organisms.
Yeah.
So we have the same genetic make, you know, as a lot of like plants or very similar, right? Like we're like point something off from a banana, like something wild like that.
Yeah,
you know,
or like fungi.
Totally.
Fungi.
Like we have the same systems. I love seeing posts and reels where people will show like, I don't know, lightning bolt and how that looks like maybe a stretch mark or something on our bodies. Like, you know, how walnuts look like a brain and they're good for your brain. Like, you know, just stuff like that. You know, it's like we are the same stuff, right? I love that.
Yeah. But because of all this climate change and the fact that like the planet is hurting right now, but I feel like we have this mentality that, oh, the planet is being hurt, but I'm not. Like there is a separation, there is a distinction because we feel like we're so insulated in our little like high-tech lives. But the reality is that we are part of nature. And when nature is suffering, like that does have a mental and emotional impact on us too.
Yeah. And we get to ignore it in a different way, right? Like to the point, Braiding Sweetgrass, that was an indigenous woman, correct? Yeah. So like the ties that she may have come from years and years, I mean, centuries of her ancestors really speaking to that, right? And like feeling what the earth feels and being a resource to the environment that they live in. And we don't really see things that way. Like the colonial mindset is exactly opposite of that. Who decided that humans were going to be the ones to do this, right? Like who decided that we were so separate from nature that we didn't have to like vibe with what was going on. You know, it was just almost like a collective decision. So, I think it's really interesting that you made that point because it's so true. We do easily separate ourselves from being one of nature, and it's just, I think connecting with nature, right? Like how good does it feel to go for a walk or a hike? How good does it feel to
love a hike?
I mean, it's proven that like if you have running water in a place, it brings peace to people.
Yeah, it lowers your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone.
Yeah, so why don't we integrate those things more into our life? Like why don't we see ourselves more as that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's a good thought. Anyway, so like to that end though, like at Climate Cafe, when we have discussions, like we mostly just kind of have a few guiding questions, and then folks get to either share their experiences or their reflections or their thoughts. We do try to keep it so that like don't bring in like all the hot tea from your family, you know, like kind of keep it towards like, and like don't get me wrong, I love a hot tea, but
we like them piping actually.
But Climate Cafe is out the space for the juices. But we do definitely ask people to just kind of keep it to like their experiences and thoughts and all that. And obviously it's like just a respectful, like we try to keep it a safe space. But it's been really great. If There's actually a lot of resources online too about starting a climate cafe. If you're listening to this, I mean, you're welcome to start another one in Green Rapids, but I mean, in Grand Rapids, but
No, in Green Rapids.
um, you could also just join ours.
Yeah.
But if you are kind of either outside this area or kind of feel like maybe there's like a need for a more like target population that you might have, you can go to climate.cafe, and that's literally the website. It's just climate.cafe.
Oh,
And then
dope.
so easy to remember. And then you can go, and then there's a lot of resources in the top bar where you could read about climate cafes. There's a map if you want to register yours. I'm not sure if ours is registered. And then there's a lot of things about like what is a climate cafe, like how to start one, how to register for one, how to go along to, like basically like be able to join one, like what to expect. So there's that resource available for y'all. And if you want to start one, but you're like, oh, I'm not really sure how to like facilitate, climatepsychology.us/climate hyphen cafes has climate facilitation trainings virtually that you can access to.
Yeah,
It's
you
really
don't
awesome.
have to be an expert in this, right? Like, you don't have to have a psychology degree or to be an environmentalist or, just whatever it is. You don't have to be a category of XYZ to have to do something to facilitate one of these, to show up to one of these. Like, it's just a space for people to gather. And just before we started this conversation, Nancy and I was just kind of saying, like, there has to be just like other ways that this has happened, right? Like, it's not just about the Climate Cafe. It can be about so many different aspects of just being a person in the tough parts of the world. And so the Climate Cafe kind of stems from the idea of a death cafe.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, and death cafes are very much similar. So it is, I guess, rumored that a man named Bernard Cortez, and he had his spouse pass and started cafes. I believe it was in the Switzerland area. But he started cafes to help cope with that, right? So to talk to people about death. I mean, death is inevitable, right? It's something that we're going to experience.
But it's also so like taboo as a subject, right? Like you can't go up to just anybody. I mean, don't get me wrong, like
Nancy will go up to anybody and talk about death.
Well, I was gonna say, like when I was 5 years old, they did have to knock on people's doors and be like, "Hi, if you already died today, do you know for sure you go to heaven?" So like I got over that hurdle real quick.
Nancy's been a talk about death expert for her whole life.
My whole life. Thanks, fundamental baptism.
Yeah, no, so many different skill sets. No, but it's true. Death is very taboo. It's something that's hard.
It's considered like morbid,
Yes.
like uncomfortable. People don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, or often like we make jokes around it, right? So it's either very serious and we don't know what to say to people when they're in a moment of grief, or if they're going to experience death themselves, or we just kind of laugh it off and make a slight bit mockery of it because it is difficult to process. But there are people who really have like deep feelings about them, either about when they will pass or somebody who has passed. People just need to talk about this very human experience, right? So he started these cafes where people could just come and talk about it, right? There are death cafes, there are climate cafes. We were even just talking about like the civil rights movement and how they went to churches. There were these spaces where they knew to go to talk about the hardships of what they were experiencing, or maybe talk about the good parts of what they're experiencing. It doesn't always have to be, don't we hate this? It can sometimes be like, what are your solutions around that? And that is a very human thing to do. Women, that's why we gossip, right? Like
a lot of it is kind of like just out loud thinking and problem solving. If you really
out
think
loud
about
thinking
it.
and problem solving, like I'm not just complaining about what's going on. I'm like looking for a solution.
Yeah, or sometimes you're in that kind of like rant or complaint. You're also talking about like I've already done this and didn't work. Like like there's always this. It's like troubleshooting.
Yes.
Like not to justify all gossip, but
I don't know. I read an article once and they were talking
It's like
about
community
women.
wisdom.
Yeah, they were talking about women gossiping and how it was a way to survive, right?
Mhm.
It's not just a thing that they do. They're not just talking about the men. They're talking about their experiences and
Mhm.
finding a way to figure it out with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reality is we're all experiencing the climate changing, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, obviously some people are maybe in denial about it and might just look out the window and be like, huh,
Yeah.
that's weird weather, and go on with their days. But I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of us that are at least somewhat aware of what's going on, or um, are just like more in tune with like nature and stuff too,
Hmm.
are definitely feeling it. So too, right?
Totally. So where do you feel like, because again, this is just something I've been curious about, but like, where do you feel um, the Climate Cafe is going in Grand Rapids, right? Like, where do you want to bring it to? Like, what levels do you want it to see it reach?
Sure. So some of the things that we're kind of looking to do is like either kind of like a maintainer group size. Right now we're like at about 8ish people that show up. I think if we were to go up to like a dozen,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit more, I think that then we'd be able to reach like the next step, which might be to have like kind of like split climate cafes.
Okay.
So Nate and I have been playing around with different times that we're scheduling them for or with, and also different locations. Our go-to has been Last Mile Cafe.
Of course, that is
We
the
love them.
that's the Climate Cafe outside of the Climate Cafes. Like, that's where you go.
Yeah, like I literally walked in a couple of days ago and like Ned was there.
Yes, that's the climate, yeah, meetup spot.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, everybody
Yeah.
just hangs out here.
But climate, I mean, they also are 1% for the environment,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And they do sustainable sourced coffee.
Mhm.
It's a black owned and
They
women owned
charge more
business.
for cow milk because oat milk is the more eco-friendly the way.
Yeah, so they're with
Good
it.
job.
But we love Last Mile for that reason, right?
Mhm.
And then they also do things like offer their spaces after
Yeah.
hours
Mhm.
for us to be able to do things like this.
With coffee and tea,
We love
which is
that.
awesome. We love it.
Who doesn't love a good 7 o'clock coffee?
You know. For those of you wondering, let me check when our next Climate Cafe is.
It's on May
Yes.
22nd,
Yes.
which is today. You are hearing this today, and you are going to be there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, lucky you. Okay,
So-
so
Go to Climate Cafe tonight.
it's gonna be at MLK Park.
Fun.
So just look up Martin Luther King Park on your maps. It'll be at 7 p.m. We'll be hanging out by the picnic tables near the playground, most likely. If we happen to move there because there's other people already there or something, just like scream into the void and we'll scream back.
There should be like a call.
Climate!
Climate!
And I respond, cafe!
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so if you
We'll
get
figure
there
it
and
out.
you don't find Nancy, just start yelling climate and you will find her.
You'll find me. Yeah, I think for one of the climate cafes, I did bring my little box of nature things, which included things like part of my bones collection, but also like,
Death, again. It's Nancy's thing.
but also like seashells, like
Yes.
feathers, leaves, like flowers and things like that. You know, so it was just
Part of my bone collection.
couldn't bring the whole thing in.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I have like a spine with the roof still attached. It's pretty cool.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Actually, since we're talking about this, I was outside of a building the other day and I saw just an animal's skull there. And I was like, I almost texted you and like, hey, do you want this?
I would have said
Drop the
yes.
location. Bring some gloves and a bag.
Well, I think I've never told this before, but one of the sweetest things I've ever gotten in the mail is that some random sweet person on Instagram who knew that I was just into bones somehow was like, "Hey, can I have your address? I want to send you some cool little thing that I found." I was like, "Sure." So I gave her my address, and then she sent me a bat skeleton that she
Oh.
found. And it was like a tiny, like the bat's skull is like smaller than the tip of my pinky.
No. I mean, but it was
Crazy.
like, obviously, it just didn't make it.
I think it was just like some species of bats are really, really tiny. So I think it was just one of the little tiny ones.
And she sent it to you.
In like a little matchbox.
Tell everybody what you love. Nancy
And
loves.
the world will respond.
Yeah. That's such a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really great way to round this up. You know,
Yeah.
that's how we got here. We talked about our passions.
Mm-hmm.
We love, Nancy and I, we love nature, right? We truly care about nature and the experience that we're all having.
You can't see me, but I'm vigorously nodding my head yes.
She's like, yes, we love nature. But it's true. I think that's like at the root of why I advocate for the environment is because I love nature.
Yes.
Because I want this experience to last. And it does feel good to know that other people like that exist. So if you are searching...
Pause this.
We're going to pause. So there's some real nerdy shit going on right now.
Okay, we got it. Just tell them.
Yeah, so
we're at GRTV.
We're at GRTV, and there was just two people who were doing like commentary on a chess tournament that was happening.
Isn't that spicy?
It's so spicy. And it's even the spicier bit of it is that the entire like staff or everybody here at GRTV has been watching this recording. Like they are tuned into this. It's just, it doesn't get better.
And I just got a glimpse of a guy through the glass window that has this like I don't know if it's metallic or just made out of straight up metal, but it looks like a chrome chessboard.
That's exactly what that was.
My mind's a little bit blown.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
The finer things in life.
You know, yeah, I was like, this guy's, and he's into it.
Oh, yeah. You know, we're going off right now. I just love the specialty item, right? Like, I don't want something just to, like, have it, right? Like, I don't want a toothbrush holder. I want it to be my toothbrush holder. I want it to, like, look that way. I don't want just, like, a chessboard. I want the chessboard, right?
I'm envisioning you with, like, a black and gold chessboard.
I have a...
With, like, those, like, cut granny glass chess pieces.
I have a black glass chess set. That's and then I have the glass pieces. Nice. And half of them are frosted and the other half aren't.
That sounds really cool, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't keep it out because I have cats.
Do you know how to play chess?
I play the, like, poor man's chess. Not checkers, but, like, I don't know the official rules. I just know how the pieces move. Poor man's chess.
I used to know what chess was. I was like, I'm intrigued. I used to play on chess.com, but then I got booted. Have I told you about this?
No.
I got banned from the website because I posted something about Christopher Columbus committing genocide against the indigenous peoples. And so
where is the lie?
And white people got offended. Anyway, so back to Climate Cafes.
Oh, yeah. I forgot what the point was.
Okay, so it will be one today as you're listening to it. There's also one on June 11th. That one's going to be at Blandford Nature Center, which I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And then our next one, our one in July is going to be July 24th. The location is still to be announced. But I believe that's the one that we're going to have in collaboration with Will Gallmeyer from the Green Projects group.
Okay,
so
fun.
Yeah, because they have electrification conversations. They have a name for it. I think it's just called like Electrification Cafe. So we're going to just do like a little co-facilitating one. So that should be exciting. But you can find our events and RSVP to them at lu.ma. So that should be Luma with a period in the middle. So lu.ma/Climate Cafe GR.
Awesome.
And also on Instagram, Climate Cafe.
Damn.
Climate Cafe GR.
And our, what is it called? Of the week. Or this action item?
Action item?
God damn.
Okay, guys, it's been a rough week.
It's been a rough week. Our action item, though, would be to talk to your people, right? To go to a climate cafe, to talk to your people about something, to maybe take a step back from, like, the climate anxiety-driven world that we seem to be living in right now, and just make sure that you're finding a space to get healthy, right? Yep. Make sure that you're finding a space to continue to be able to exist in this very confusing time.
Yeah. I know that when we feel kind of overwhelmed or like sad or just like hopeless, I feel like sometimes the thing to do, or that I sometimes do, is to just kind of like really isolate a little bit.
Yeah.
But that hurts you. It hurts people who love you. So check out one of our climate cafes. Get the feelings out. I know not everybody has like family or friends that they can talk about this openly with,
Yeah.
but we will welcome you. So
We're your new
come hang out.
family.
We're your new homies.
friends. Or just get violently stoned.
There's always that.
There's always that.
It's like plan C, but yeah.
Yeah, plan C, we'll call it that.
C for cannabis. This is not a commercial.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, have a really great day, a good week.
We'll see you soon.
You'll hear us soon.
You'll hear me soon.